sacred place where we discuss all things of Earth and outer space, where we divine to pass the time, and no one can put us down or in our place. Grab your tea leaves or your spirits and gather around. The embers are glowing, warm flames abound. The hallowed hearth welcomes you now.
The universe is far too vast for us to be alone. And tonight we are looking at the marks it leaves behind. Welcome back to the Hallowed Hearth. Tonight we are stepping into the multidimensional matrix with our special guest, Geraldine Orozco. From lifelong ET contact and regression therapy to pranic healing and energy cultivation, we're asking the hard questions about what it really means to experience the unexplained and how we rebuild ourselves after looking into the abyss. The fire is burning bright, the circle is open, and the transmission is live. Let's step into the dark. Joining me as ever are my sisters in spooky, Haley Hansen. Hi, Haley.
Hi,
and back with us after her brief vacay, searching out the unknown, is Rachel Ravensvale. Welcome back, sister.
Hey, thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
Oh, we miss you so much.
I know, I miss you guys.
Okay, so before we get too far, I have to share this on the screen because this is kind of awesome. Another outstanding show from the best podcast out there. Thank you, Sean. Thank you.
Welcome, Holly. And there's some new people in the chat. I don't recognize them.
I know.
You let us know who you are so we can say hi, but welcome anyway.
Yes. If you are new and this is your first time with us, please like, share, and subscribe.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we want to be able to hang out with you every Thursday. We have a lot of new things out there. We are on Patreon. You can now listen to us on Spotify and Apple and all of the places where you find your podcast. We are there. And it's so exciting. You guys are making this incredible for us. It's a huge dream. So thank you all so much for joining us every week. Thank you, my sisters, for doing this with me because this is so cool.
It's the best.
It's my favorite day of the week.
Hi. Okay.
Oh, yay.
Hi, Jen.
Yay, I'm so happy you could make it. It's awesome.
So before we introduce our guest for tonight, we have our cards. And I want to see what the universe has for us because it's been so good. And Rachel has been experiencing all kinds of synchronicities that we may go into a little bit later. So with that in mind, Rachel, if you will tell us where to stop tonight.
All right. Stop.
Ooh.
That look.
Uh-huh. It is the Seven of Wands.
Magic.
More sevens? What is it with us?
Witches should hold other witches accountable.
Oh, snap.
So what does our guidebook tell us?
That's right.
Wands and wands and more wands. Oh. It looks like someone is finally getting called out on her bad behavior.
Sorry.
Let's hope she handles it well. Even when you're a witch, you're still a fallible human being, and you will eventually say or do things you shouldn't. Your mistakes don't make you a bad witch necessarily. Sometimes what really matters is how you choose to respond once you've been confronted. In most situations, the best thing to do is, surprisingly, also the simplest thing to do. First, Listen and try to understand where they're coming from. Second, apologize. The phrase, I'm sorry, is one of the most powerful spells there is. Last, do better when you know better. That's not too difficult, right? Oh,
But it, that
Pretty sure that was the right word.
I'm not sure that was the right card.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Sorry, I don't know.
No, it seems like it's the easiest thing to do, but why is it like hard sometimes? Because you have to swallow that like ego, you know?
Right. And pull another. Yeah, pull another.
I'm not above pulling another card. All right, Haley, you do it this time.
Clarifier. There you
Yeah,
go.
mine's a
You
little
do need a
weird.
clarifier. I need an oracle deck
What are
for
we
that.
apologizing for? We just ended Mercury retrograde. Everything should be fine now, right?
And who's to say it's us? That's
Right? It could
somebody.
be someone in the comments who needs to say they're sorry.
It doesn't even need to be there. It could be somebody extension off of us that like needs to apologize to us.
That's right.
Or maybe it's time we ask for the apology.
I like that.
Maybe
like
it's time we stop just accepting
Mm.
and say, no, you hurt my feelings. You did this thing, and I want you to make it right.
Oh no, I've got a list. Am I gonna have to start checking it off?
Do you need an accountability partner?
Me.
Oh my goodness. The chat is loving it.
Yes.
I am too.
Name Keith. Yes. Keith is our favorite scapegoat. We love you anyway.
I know.
Dang it, Keith.
We'll see if we can feel it from the other room.
Like he's pulling a 3 of swords right this second. Oh, my heart.
Yeah, stab someone. Little dabs.
Oh. Well, Rachel, while we wait for Geraldine, why don't you tell everybody?
She said
Is she here?
She
She's
told me
not
that.
in my queue.
Yeah.
She told me she was there.
Microphone
And
issue.
sorry, my issue. Oh, 1 minute. Okay.
Okay.
She is
Well, while we do that, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about last weekend?
Ooh, last
Just
weekend.
so they all want to sign up for next year.
Very interesting.
I
So
want
yeah, I was at leading a witchy retreat in a pretty awesome location. It's a private location, so I can't like divulge exactly where it is. But she said, "I'm here. Are you seeing me?"
We are not seeing her.
No, where is she?
Hang
Can she
on.
see us?
Yours.
I asked her, "Okay, can she see us?"
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so we were leading the witch retreat. We kind of did the opening and closing ceremony, and we did a seance, which all of that was wonderful. We had a few different practitioners there during it was like a 3-day retreat, and one of them was she did Reiki healing, and then she also did past life regression. So knowing me, I was like, past life. I need to know all the things about my past lives. And so during the witches ball, she was like, because I was doing tea leaf readings pretty much for 2 days straight. And it was like, okay, she said, like, come up during the ball at some point, and I'll do a regression on you. And so I finally got the chance to go on up there, and man, I think like the thing has changed my life. It's pretty wild. I regressed to 2 lives. One of them was here during the Middle Ages. I was a man who who was sort of abandoned by his parents when he was little. And then when he became an adult, he got married and he had a baby boy, and his wife and his child ended up perishing in the fire. And so I was literally like just tears pouring down my face. And so since I was just like in that really emotional state, she moved me on to like the next life, which she was like, you're going to be in the Akashic records. You're going to go there. You're going to pull out the book that's all your lives you've ever lived. And you're going to ask your spirit guide, what open up to the page that I need to know the most. And when I opened up the page and I stepped in, I was not on this planet. I can tell you that much. Yeah. It is wicked crazy. So she was asking me questions and I was describing, what I was. She was asking, what my body looked like. And I said, I don't have a physical body. Like I'm light, I guess. And then she asked me, what am I seeing around me? And I said, well, like I don't know how I'm going to describe this because it's kind of indescribable. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like we don't have anything like that on Earth. Like it was just like the sky was shimmery, iridescent, but it had like this purple. That's the only color I'm going to say is close to it, like a purple kind of hue to it. But I could see like hieroglyphics, but they weren't like Egyptian hieroglyphics. They were hieroglyphics from like a completely different language that's not here. And so as I was telling her this, even when I was like, she could see I started to look like I was in pain. And I was just like, all of a sudden I just popped up out of completely out of like the session. And I had pulled myself out and I freaked her out. Because she was like,
well done.
Was like, that has never been, I've never seen that happen before. She was like, nobody pulls themselves out of like a session like that. And, I said, well, I do it all the time in my dreams because I'm a lucid dreamer. Yeah. And so I know that during dreams that when I'm dreaming and I'll be like, fuck this dream. I don't like it. I'm out. And I will take myself out of the dream and I'll wake up. And so, and so that's apparently what I did in this session. I was like, fuck this. This is it. But when I came, I realized I was not in my body and I was in excruciating pain getting back into this body that like literally I again was in tears. And like when I completely pulled myself out, like from my like knees down, like my legs, like, when they're like completely fall asleep and you can't feel them, they were tingling and they felt numb. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. Yeah. And when I was describing, the color of everything and she was like, I know where you were. And I was like, you know where I was? She was like, yeah, you're in the Arcturus system. You're an Arcturian. And I was like, what the hell is that? I know. I was like, I had no idea who it was, but as I've looked into them and I've talked to like Haley about it a little bit too, it's kind of like, oh my God, like everything it said. And the one thing that I did say too to her that during the session, I said, I'm interdimensional. I'm an interdimensional being. I told her, and I'm made of light, is what I said. I'm a light being.
Rare. Yes. Amazing.
Wow.
So I'm like, now I'm like, I need to know, like, since then, I just want to know everything about them. I want to make contact with them again because I'm like, you're my people.
Come on. Yeah.
But she told me because I told her I was out of my body and it hurt because she was like, you look like you were in so much pain. And I said, it was painful coming back into this body. Like I'd never, like, or I hadn't experienced something like that before.
Mm.
Like it hurt so bad. And she was like, she was like, people jump in and out of bodies, like, but they're used to doing it. They're used to that this body is dense and like it's hard to come back. And she was like, I was about to be mad at you if you decided not to come back into this body. And I was like,
No practice shutdown. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I know. And she was like, it was funny that she was like, I will be so pissed off if you didn't come back.
Well, speaking of which, I think our guest might be able to lend a little bit of extra perspective on that remarkable experience. And I'm so excited to have her on tonight.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
She
So
come on yet?
she is in our little green room. Tonight with us, we have the amazing Geraldine Orozco. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Oh, is it mute? You're mute.
No,
Sorry.
now you're not. You're fine.
Oh, it's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's so nice to meet you all, Haley, Katy, and Rachel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's the second time I've gotten to see you because you were on with Tom before, but
Yes.
I really appreciate you coming on again.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. Well, I can't wait to jump into these juicy topics that you want to talk about.
Oh, yes.
Oh my gosh. And I saw earlier today, like I think it was one of a different show you were on with another podcast. And I've noticed I was just reading like the summary of it. And I noticed at the bottom, it said hashtag Arcturian. And I was like, what is up with this? They're like all over the place. Now,
That's amazing.
yeah.
So is this the first time you've had an experience with these Arcturians, or have you had others?
No,
Okay.
this is my very first.
I do CE5, so I'm well aware of the Arcturians, but when she said she connected and was one of them, I was like, wow, this is full circle crazy amazingness, and I love it. And to have you on, full circle, beautiful stuff.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, I actually I don't tend to think of being just one thing, because I really truly feel that we're all in nothing simultaneously. But it's really interesting to tap into these aspects of ourselves, because there's always lessons and there's gifts that each of these little bloodlines, they play through us, they work through us. So yeah.
I just love that. I really do.
Well, for those of you those of our viewers who don't know who you are, Geraldine, can you give us just a little bite size?
You do so much, but
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Geraldine Orozco. I'm an epigenetic psychotherapist and a clinical hypnotherapist. And I'm also a lifelong contactee, which is actually how I got into this whole field to begin with. I've been having extrasensory abilities since I was very young, 5 years old, having experiences of connecting with interdimensional beings, and grew up very, very spiritual and meditating at a really early age. And that made me establish a meditation school. And that's where I started kind of getting more serious about it later on in my life, in my mid-20s. And that's when I really started to deprogram my own programming. And I learned through my own meditation, by exploring my emotions, by looking at my own trauma, kind of mapping out where we're experiencing, how we're co-creating our life experiences. And I developed this modality called DNA reprogramming. And the psychological element of that and the deprogramming of that was first, but later the DNA element came in. I had a most life-changing conscious experience in 2013. And then many years later, in 2017, I had a hypnotherapy where I began to recover all these memories of my childhood, even more so than I had already worked through, and downloading information of the origin of mankind, and essentially looking at DNA as the interface of consciousness. And so I was shown all of this information. Before that, I never studied biology or any of that, but I was downloaded all this information about that, to the point where I had to literally go back to school to kind of fact check everything I was learning and understanding, to see if, did I just make all of that up, or was that a real thing? And it turns out it is. The science actually was just about to catch up. In 2018, I discovered the work of Dr. Michael Levin, who talks about holographic, the morphogenetic field, and the bioelectrical nature. And that's when I realized finally someone had been doing some research on our bioelectrical nature and its connection to DNA. And there's a profound connection between contact experiences, all of our interdimensional experiences, and this bioelectrical element that's interfacing with the DNA. So, so kind of how I started and how I got into all of this.
Wow. That ties in directly to the first question we really want to ask you, which is, on our show, we talk a lot about witchcraft and spiritual practices. Witches speak about the veil separating our worlds from others. Do you see contact with non-human intelligences as a form of crossing that veil, or is that something entirely different?
Absolutely. Crossing the veil, interesting way to express that. I think that we are constantly moving in and out of many dimensions all the time, and so in certain frequencies, we connect with the elements of plants, for example, other frequencies, elements of crystals, other elements of ghosts, disembodied souls. And then in other frequencies, we tap into these interdimensional consciousness, these beings that are from other dimensions, which we perceive as other planetary systems, but it's a little more complex than just planetary systems in the way that we see planets, like these, masses of Earth floating in space. We're really looking at interdimensional consciousness. So to answer the question directly, I feel that, this is, it's part of our intrinsic ability to navigate interdimensionally. Most contact experiences is happening in the dream state. Yeah. Because it's usually when we're able to even access those dimensional layers, those frequencies. When you're in your body, most people don't have the ability to master, this material, physical, multidimensionality. And so in dream state, we leave the body, and it's easier for us to interact with these beings. I believe it's the foundation. The foundation is that interdimensionality.
I just have to say real quick, I love the ease of which you lay out such profound knowledge so quickly. Everything you say is its own point and could be studied individually, but what you're saying is so spot on and so inherently beautiful. What you mentioned about the dream state, I'm a lifelong experiencer as well, but I didn't realize it until I started tapping into different forms of consciousness. I had a period of my life when I was tapping into the theta waves, trying to actively manifest. And that was when I became aware of some of the experiences that I was actually having my entire life, but I was able to perceive it for the first time. So, wow, so many truth bombs you just dropped on us so quickly. I'm going to have to study this episode already, and we're not even barely started. Wow. Do you feel like your views on spirituality, or is this all just kind of how perception and consciousness is perceived anyway?
The second part. I think that it's just the nature of our reality. I think for so long, because we've kind of been traumatized into the concept of spirituality as being, lots of parts of it being occult, being hidden, being something that's taboo to study. I think what is the future of that is the communion between spirituality and the sciences, coming into spiritual science, which I think is the future. So I think that will be the foundation of the new sciences that are going to be emerging pretty soon now. And this concept that spirituality is a compartmentalized part of our lives is going to be obsolete, So I think that it's definitely, I think it is a science, actually. I think it is a science, and the more we learn about this, the nature of our body, because our body is the technology. The body is actually the vessel from which this infinite potential is emerging into creation. So the more that we, learn about ourselves, connect with the selves, the more we're going to have an understanding of how this world functions. In fact, how I even came across the concept of natural order, harmonic order, is through this internal work, because we actually are working through natural laws, universal laws. And so we're not aware of those universal laws because we're so busy being programmed by the matrix that we completely are disconnected. All of our understanding of everything that is actual order, beauty, and let's say purity, but in its raw, untouched form, it's completely inverted in the matrix, right? So we have to take a lot of time to dismantle and deprogram that in order to see things as they really are.
Wow. Wow.
So I know you mentioned something about dreams and leaving their body, and can you explain, like, because I know that I'm a lucid dreamer.
Yeah.
And so I can, like, when I'm in a dream and I don't like a dream, I was talking about earlier, I could just pull myself out of it because I'm aware I'm dreaming when I'm dreaming. And I guess that's rare. Like, most people don't have that ability, or there's some, but like not everybody has it. Is that what you run across?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I teach lucid dreaming because this is actually one of the most important, essential parts of beginning to master your life force and even begin to access any form of free will is the ability to become lucid, right? And so lucidity is not just for dream state, it should also be in the waking state. A lot of us, we're sleeping in the waking state. We're completely unconscious and disconnected from our bodies. So to be able to become lucid, which means simply to become aware fully and to be fully embodied, this is the key to not only the ultimate protection in these navigation of the unknown, but also coming into harmonic order and accessing your highest potential, the most vibrant, expansive, energetic state of the body. Because this physical body, we're toroidal energy systems, and these toroidal energy systems, when we're disconnected, when we dream, it looks like it's a fantasy. It's very distorted. We barely understand it, and we have a whole Jungian psychology that tried to study, the psychology of dreams, but it's all speaking the language of frequency, which is it's quite symbolic, right? And so these symbols is a very silent language of nature that we have to learn. We are eventually learning and tapping into. So lucid dreaming is something that we all can do. We can all train. In order to do that, you have to first become lucid in your waking state. And a very simple way to do that is literally by, Eckhart Tolle talks about the power of now, just completely allowing yourself to come fully into the present moment, and beginning to train your senses to be okay with everything that you're experiencing around you. And there's a lot of talk about empaths that feel very traumatized by the fact that they're so sensitive to everything around, but it's really because we lack the discipline to learn how to really embody and cultivate resilience with our emotions, our senses, and perceptions. So I think that lucid dreaming is the gateway to interdimensional experiences. I think it's the gateway to understanding and integrating experiences. We also to go into another topic about parasitism, right? Because what happens when we are completely unconscious, both in the waking state and dream state, our energy field is centrifugal, right? So because we are these toroidal fields, we deplete our life force, and therefore we are perfect a place for entities to attach and feed and can manipulate through us, through our own ignorance of our own self, our own emotions. So it's really important to understand that. And all the ancient mystery schools in history, these are the foundational building that was necessary for someone to even begin to navigate dimensions, right? And to be okay in them. And so I train a lot about that. So let's talk about what happens when you go into the dream state. To become lucid and navigate that, what I have learned is that the same energetic tools that you use in the waking state can be used in the dream state. You can learn how to ground, how to come fully into the body. You can learn how to protect your energy field by owning your space, and working with your perception through the chakras. Our chakra system is not just, these really cool color rainbows in the body or wheels. These are toroidal fields that are literally what input into the creation, your experience. So everything most of what we're experiencing, it's in the DNA. And most of what you're experiencing before you wake up consciousness is usually a repetition of your ancestral and past lives. And that's really important. That the ascension process is, you'll start with those, family problems, inside your grandma, grandpa, father, mother problems. The dreams are all about that, very, very close to home. Then you start going into more ancestral dreams. Then you go into past lives. Then you go into these interdimensional realms where you start to meet your starseed lineages, things like this. So the lucidity, the point of lucidity is that you can learn how to navigate with those experiential agreements with whatever it is you're encountering in the unknown, and essentially alchemizing your fear, alchemizing all the things you need to learn through those experiences in order to cultivate the 0 point. So yes, we'll start there, and then we can take that deeper in any direction that you want.
Wow.
Do you want to put up Holly's comment again about?
Yes.
So are we needing to? So is the whole thing? Did any point of being birthed into this life, did you have this knowledge and you lost it because of programming? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Me or the comment?
Well, I think that's what she's asking. She's asking if we have to learn, and I'm wondering is if when we're born into this life, do we have this knowledge and then we're somehow programmed to lose it?
Exactly, 100%. So, and this is really interesting when I work with my students, right, in therapy. When we do DNA reprogramming, we go all the way back to the womb, and we begin to look at the trauma, the emotions that we feel there. And every single time you recognize in the womb, even just being in your mother's womb, that you have this intrinsic understanding that you are infinite potential, that, the suffering is something that you take on from usually either the mother or the father to begin with, and then ancestrally it's something that you're carrying through, but you know that you are infinite potential. You know that you have this communion, this connection with the non-physical realm, and children are always very, very psychic. They're always seeing things, imaginary friends, right? There's so much amazing research about children that are connecting or speaking telepathically or connecting with these non-physical beings, elements, so we are quite wide open. And it isn't until we start to take on trauma, the conditioning of the world, that we start to close those abilities off in order to protect, we protect this seemingly vulnerable parts of ourselves until we remember. And so I guess for adults, I work with children and adults. For children, it's amazing because I can walk them through the process and they just get there like this. They just come back to that love so quickly. And they understand love in such a profound way that when I work with somebody that's 70 years old, for example, we got to go through like an hour to be able to even get to that love, that place of peace that they forgot completely, right, their entire life. And so, it's very much peeling the layers, peeling the programs, the beliefs that have clouded our understanding of what we are. The beauty of this, though, is that seems to be a law of the universe. And I really love to work with universal laws because these are indisputable truths at the base of all creation, of nature, natural order, earth, natural systems, our bodies, how our bodies function. But psychologically, it's also true. Psychologically, we're abiding by these self-organizing systems. And so the more that we deprogram some of these programs, you find underneath you this little innocent being that is pure love. And it has this ability to connect to information, infinite amounts of information beyond time and space instantly, right? So, so that's the beauty of the human.
through that whole thing, I was getting goosebumps the entire time. It was like, I could really feel that. And I really do. I think that is some of my experience, because I had, where I was seeing a ghost of my grandfather, like at the age of like 10 years old.
Mhm.
And again, I had another encounter with the spirit when I was a teenager. And then through a little bit through my adult life, I'd go into locations that are, were reportedly haunted, and I could feel the emotion of the space I was in. So very much empathic. But it changed when I was in this relationship with my ex-husband, who was abusive. And I had took on this, like you say, I took on all this trauma, and I closed down.
Mhm.
I shut down. I shut everything down, and like all my abilities, everything, because I really felt like I had to protect me in all of that. And it's not until I started back doing paranormal investigating that all of a sudden I'm opening back up to like these energies at these locations, and I'm feeling everything, and I'm starting to even get abilities I didn't even know I had, sort of back, where I'm hearing like the clairaudience and of them. And so it's really interesting.
Well, and I have a
It's
question
amazing.
that too, because as someone who also has PTSD, and I know that I've gathered a lot of trauma just throughout life, but I was very psychically in tune as a child. You mentioned the Matrix and these energies, and I know that you are very aware of extraterrestrial beings and other higher forms of consciousness. Where do you think these laws were established, and why are they so integral to our experience here on Earth? Is it something that's literally programmed like the simulation that we are in, or is it more symbolic, as in this is just how things are?
Yeah, amazing question. Well, these universal laws, these are universal laws, hermetic principles that are at the foundation of nature, right? And so when we think of nature, it's from which we emerge. So, and so there are certain things we exist in a three-dimensional plane. This three-dimensional plane is operating on the law of three, so the divine mother, father unites to create the third. And so if you understand that, both in nature, of course, humans with their, reproduction, but it's also psychological. That's also how psychologically we create thoughts. That's also how we create matter. That's also how the body is literally producing cells. And we don't realize that until you begin to look at these patterns, which are very much, these are hidden symbologies. These are sacred symbologies that, they are truths that you cannot dispute. It's there within your anatomy. It's within everything at the cellular level. So in order to even recognize that, somebody would have to slow down tremendously in order to observe all of these different systems and their interconnections. And that's what shamans and, witches, people that are so deeply connected to the earth have been doing for centuries in these ancient mystery schools. So I think that the reason why it's so important to recognize that, because the process to even recognize that requires silence. It requires deprogramming of the matrix, which, again, as I mentioned, it's the matrix focuses on the manipulation of that natural order, and we don't realize it in such a profound way, because what you might think is something right or something good that's actually happening can be completely wrong. It can be completely different. It might not be that way. You would just have to understand the cause and effect of things. So we have this concept of karma that people talk about, and they think it's just about punishment, but really karma just means cause and effect, right? So what does that mean? That has a lot of layers to it, because in our actions, for example, we don't really truly, unless you truly know yourself, you don't really know what's driving your actions. You don't know what's behind your intentions. You might think that giving something to someone is a gift, but underneath that, maybe it's your need for validation. Maybe it's your need to connect. Maybe you feel lonely. And so those are very deep psychological needs that have to be met. And you're only going to know that if you really take time to introspect and to review that. And even in that, those patterns that you're living out, which is matrix conditioning, like just in itself, like the thought of being alone, which is a matrix condition, it's a cyclical pattern. Everything in the universe is working in these cyclical patterns because the nature of three is this, it's based on the Fibonacci sign, which everything is moving in this spiral system. Everything, the universe, Earth, the weather patterns, birds, the cells in your body, everything is operating by these. So as you can see, those are like layers of these universal laws that you can understand. It's revealing itself to you. And so in that same way, you can find out that these kind of cyclical patterns are also psychological in the collective. The reason why the matrix conditioning works is that if you trap that cycle, if you close that cycle, it just keeps looping and looping and looping. And that's what they call samsara. That's what they call this reincarnation cycle. To break that pattern would be to be able to question outside, to come into a higher octave of that cyclical pattern. And that is actually coming into harmonic order, because harmonic order is a spiral that's always ascending. It's infinitely ascending. The matrix is a spiral that is closed. It just keeps repeating the same over and over again. So the invitation, I guess, is that the human becomes aware of that and breaks those patterns psychologically, physically, emotionally, in their creations. Can you break all these patterns that are actually going in the direction of death, counter creation? And when I say death, that's also a creation cycle, because obviously, even death goes into its own creation cycle. But the problem with the body is that the body oxidizes, right? And so if you have a lot of contractive emotions, contractive patterns, contractive creation, your entire system, eventually it'll develop an illness and die. So, just that law of the universe alone, of this cyclical nature, helps you understand so many profound layers of our human experience, psychologically, emotionally, creatively, even in our creation of life. We pass down these patterns down to our children. And so it's going to be the same interdimensionally. Something that I've discovered with my work is that ET contact, interdimensional contact. I don't like to use the word ET. I use it for a reference, but the way I actually speak of interdimensional ETs or aliens actually is interdimensional. I believe that's the appropriate term for them. But these interdimensional beings, even our contact with them is cyclical, because we are actually in our DNA, we have these ancestral bloodlines that we're cycling through these experiences for many generations. Just like the American Indians, the shamans from all around the world talk about the lore of the stories of their communion with the gods. We're also learning how to do that. So I think that these universal laws are kind of helping us reveal these hidden patterns, the symbology. It's demystifying this human experience to a point where you wake up from the dream state of the matrix into true creation and actual free will. That really the only time a human can access free will is if they reveal these universal laws to themselves, laws of resonance, laws of creation, on and on.
Wow. I know.
There was so much to unpack. I can't wait to watch this 3 times a week.
I know.
I love that in your context you use the term matrix. I think most people, when they hear that, they assume movie, slow motion coding.
Yeah.
But at its core, a matrix is a closed system. That's what it means mathematically. And ultimately, the laws of the universe all reside in math and music because they are one and the same, essentially. But it's my brain is going so fast. But yeah, it's beautiful that you say that we have to understand ourselves and the coding itself to understand the world around us, because really that's what most people are shut off to. They don't want to be connected to nature. They don't want to be connected to other people. And when you close that circuit off and you get caught up in your own matrix, you can't understand yourself. You'll never understand yourself because you aren't experiencing other aspects of yourself that you haven't met yet. So my question for you then, and I kind of have a little hint of this because I'm familiar with your work, but you mentioned star seeds and the interdimensional aspect of other beings. And I do feel like that is the correct terminology for beings that are considered alien to most people. But what do you think is the reason for, and I hope this isn't too personal, continued hybridization programs and things like that? Is it something that's been in existence as far as humanity's existence? Is it something that's always happened and it's continuing? Or is it a different agenda in our modern time that's causing the necessity for such type of contact?
So the hybridization program is a really profound topic, and it requires us to understand a couple things. First of all, because we're in a three-dimensional plane, I'm glad we talked about three-dimensional plane. We talked about the laws of the feminine, masculine to create the third, right? So in other words, we are pure creators. So that's what we're here for. We're here to experience creation. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the highest form of creation is the creation of another universe, another living being, an organism that has another soul. That's a really huge thing. But we create this living organism in the waking state when we have our children. And that is also a hybridization program per se, right? Because not per se, it's just not similar to the other that I'm going to talk about in a second. There's a couple different kinds. And so, we within our DNA, we have all of this, braiding of genetics that they're not just human, and so we bring these children that are also starseeds. They're super deeply interconnected. And now as we go into these higher octaves, collectively, more and more, those braids of DNA are opening up for us, and our children. And so in the same way, there are also parasitic hybridization programs, right? And that is the manipulation of genetics for a very specific goal. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we've experienced on our planet Earth through this opposing inversion of natural order. Through these agendas and covert programs, a lot of the hybridization programs that are experienced through abduction are usually from the military. And there's a tremendous amount of psyops, psychological operations that manipulate your psychology, but in the field of out-of-body experiences, which is really interesting, that when you are in the out-of-body, you are hijacked in order to perform or do or be collected for this holographic genetic information. This is a very real thing. That sounds as sci-fi as it can possibly get, and yet this is something that is very real. In fact, one of the interesting things of disclosure was the congressional hearings of MK Ultra, which lead us to this topic. If it wasn't for that becoming public, I don't think we would be able to truly understand this topic of hybridization, because that's usually where the majority of the most traumatic experiences is happening. And because sex is the most powerful creative life force in this construct, love is, but these are separate things we'll talk about in just a second. The fastest way to fractalize a person from their soul and from their access to the many fractals of the universe, which are through them, is sexual abuse. Okay. Yeah, so we have that on Earth, and we've seen that with the EP files and so on and so forth. That if you really truly look at what that is, you're going to understand also these more nefarious programs that are happening, So that's one element. And so on the higher octave of things, we can also create from a really pure state of love, which is something that has been hidden from the earth for a very long time. In fact, pure creation of souls coming from deep, deep love with alchemical practices has been completely taken out of the record, for a very specific reason. If you can enslave an entire human race by manipulating their sexual urges and making them ignorant to what that is, very easy to parasite on them and to control that entire narrative. So, you know, the hybridization program essentially from the government is a very parasitic purpose that is affecting both interdimensional elements of our genetics and also physical, because they do have cloning type programs, right? They create clones in order to use them like operatives in interdimensional scenarios or even physical, right? Things like the Manchurian Candidate. You fractalize someone and you make them do something they won't even remember.
Sorry. I don't want to get us flagged.
Yeah, sorry, don't say it. Yeah, so that's a very real element. And what I have found in my research is that the majority of contactees, which are highly sensitive beings, it's usually the most psychic children that are targeted for these programs, because your psychic ability means that your DNA has reached a broader bandwidth of frequency. Okay, so this is something that passes down through generations. So there's a couple elements to that. There's the military element, where we see a lot of this in military families, generation after generation after generation. And then there's the other element with very psychic families, okay? And also certain indigenous bloodlines are also targeted for some of these things. And that's another topic, but there's a whole side to this system since before World War II, which then led into World War II, where the whole point is to control genetics and to manipulate that information, So yeah, so it's really interesting. The hybridization program, it's not just about the concept of interdimensional creation. It's about the sovereignty and the free will that humans need to wake up to. That if you are unconscious, if you're in a constant state of fear, if you're disconnected from yourself, if you have a lot of unresolved sexual trauma, you're a perfect target to be hijacked in your dream state when you are leaving out of body for some of these things. And my invitation to these experiences is that we understand that we have absolute potential to begin to control our experiences, as we were talking about with lucid dreaming. So now, in 2013, when I was taken by these Pleiadian beings, right, who then introduced me to higher children, the whole purpose of that was to open my eyes to this whole thing, which it took me many years to understand all these different facets of these experiences. But there is also, on a very high level in the creation of love, an ability to create beings, souls, because the whole point of the hybridization essentially is the creation of a soul. What is a soul? A soul is a portal. It's going to be the interface into matter, which is the DNA. But this soul is a portal through their DNA, through infinite numbers of dimensions, different planetary systems, beyond time and space. We can connect to your Arcturian lineages, Pleiadian lineages, all of that is in your DNA. When you have that in your bloodline, you have access to libraries of information. We talk about the Akashic records, right? So in these records of memory, you have information that is the most advanced technology that humanity isn't even going to realize until maybe we have a really advanced level of quantum computing, right? So this is natural to the human. So we are really learning how to tap into those realms naturally through our DNA. And when we recover the memory of these experiences, a lot of experiencers that remember having children, they are called to really work with those creations. Okay, so those hybrids, like you have to work with them. You can break contracts. What do I mean by contracts? We create experiential agreements. So you and I here, we have agreements to share wisdom here together, right? Or information. And that's something that's pre-designed, right? So in the same way, we have these contracts with these beings, whether it's the Pleiadians or even just the military, like even that, we are participating. And so the more conscious you are, the more you can learn how to direct the end goal, the end product of these aspects of yourself, you know. So I'll start there and then.
It's amazing. I know. You know what's so funny, ladies, and I don't know if you remember this, but like even just a couple of shows ago, we were talking about, well, what it seems our purpose here and the connections that we've made lately. It there's like a very like interconnected, like a web that we've had lately to some amazing people, and we feel like we've been talking about, like we feel like there's a reason for this, like we've been, really feeling that there's some other purpose that we're supposed to be getting out, like maybe this information like you mentioned.
Well, and that's something I had asked Haley about before you two jumped on tonight. Because, Rachel, you very much seem to be like a focal point right now. And my knowledge, we've talked about this before, is like this big, about this much. So what I was asking Haley is like, how common is it for one person like you right now seem to be getting a lot of messages? There's just a lot of synchronicities tying back to Rachel right now. So, how common is that? And is this because in her nature, she is just meant to kind of lead a bunch of this and bring a lot of this stuff to light, and she just carries that inside her? So we're going to use her as a tool right now. Like how common is that for somebody to be really focused on like she seems to be?
Yeah, I mean, how common? I think it's becoming more and more common as we move into this new era, really. But what it comes down to is self-trust. Like once you trust yourself, you ask to have answers revealed, and they will be revealed to you. So, once you wake up that inquiry, that internal inquiry, like, for example, she had the hit of these Arcturians, it's going to show up everywhere for her because she needs to answer a part of her. A part of her has woken up to that. And so that's a shift in frequency. That's really what it means to, shift frequencies. You tune into that. It's just like one of those UFO watching tours, where in a group of 100, maybe 50 see the gigantic ship right there, and then the other 50 just don't see it because they're not in that frequency, and this is part of these laws, universal laws of resonance. When you're in resonance with a certain information, you will gravitate, you will attract the people that you need. And the important thing about waking up consciousness and being present is that you come more and more onto your path. And so, what Rachel seems to be experiencing is the activation of her DNA, of the memory, the dormant DNA of that Arcturian part of her. And now she's going to be connected with people, things, information that are going to help her enrich that understanding. That's part of her healing. And the deeper invitation is like, okay, what is in my Arcturian life? What is it that I need to overcome? What do I need to master? What do I need to integrate? And then that's what she needs to bring in now to take her life into the next step. And probably you ladies also have a lot of that in you as well that you're discovering, you're going to discover. And, like that, we wake up like little ping pong balls. All at one wakes up, the other one wakes up, and it, until everyone kind of begins to question these things.
I know for myself personally, I have a very strong connection with the Greys. It's not something that I'm willing to discuss on the show just quite yet, but I do wonder if these type of experiences that we go through individually, do you think that they're more for the person or for the collective consciousness? Like this is one person that's basically being a beacon or a contact point for expansion for the human consciousness. And do you think this is something that everyone eventually will experience, or is it just people who actively want to seek this out?
If you want to seek it out, you will. Yes. If you don't want to, you may never, and that's totally fine, because everyone has free will, and they're busy experiencing other facets of this human experience. But yeah, I do think that more of us will. I think that the human race is going through a transition point that we've never seen before. And 2 years ago, I received some very interesting information about how we're heading into that direction, how things are going to change right now, because everything that we thought was reality, everything that we call the matrix, everything that builds the construct as it is going to begin to fall apart, really. And a new way of living and being, based on not only new sciences that are coming, new math, new physics, new understanding of the world, of space, of physics, everything, is going to change the way that we create a foundation of a society. So when that kind of a shift happens in a society, what's happening to the human?
Mhm.
Our DNA is becoming activated. What does that mean? It simply means that when we could see the visible range of frequency of light, it's going to be expanding broader than that. It's going to be expanding into higher frequencies that you can process information symbolically in a way where you can apply meaning that makes sense to you. And before, that was not as available. It was available to a select few. But now this is going to happen to more people. And the reason why is because of this shift. I mean, there's a whole element to this ascension, essentially. I mean, the way that this universe is moving, as I mentioned, everything is in a spiral. But right now, we are reaching the center point of this transition point. Imagine that we're moving through this infinity system. When you reach the center point, things move at a much, much, much faster rate. Okay, when you go to the extremities of this system, things slow down. So we've just gone through a major slowdown system. It was the suppression of the divine feminine, suppression of these kinds of interdimensional arts. Okay, and now it's all coming back, and you see that. I mean, when in history was telepathy something in mainstream? That's huge. When in history was UFO something in mainstream? So it's a new era, and so we have to prepare for that by beginning to cultivate our faculties, our senses. How do you learn to speak a new language? A more broader language is by cultivating your senses. We communicate, especially telepathically. This is the next step for humanity. We will be telepathic. 20 years from now, we will be speaking telepathically, and that will be part of our work. And part of that will also be a transhumanist element, because there's very much a transhumanist potential for the human race. We have a tendency to want to go into this transhumanist direction, where instead of basing ourselves on the cultivation of our natural technology, we become dependent on this artificial technology. The problem with that, which we won't yet see, is that that's going to be the ultimate destruction of our DNA. And the DNA is, again, it's that interface into this consciousness. So I really feel that we will all be accessing and having the opportunity, whether you want to or not. It's completely up to you. But of course, your experience is going to be defined by that. What I see is that, a lot of people are going to develop new illnesses. There will be an illness of the pineal gland. There will be illnesses of the contraction of these systems. We have to overcome that. There's no illness that is not rooted in some kind of somatic root of trauma, fear, So we have to work with our fear. We have to work with our relationship of the unknown more than ever now, because as we move through these very unknown, we are literally creating a new society, a new self, a new perception. Yeah.
Do you want to pull up that last comment to get, if you can?
Yeah,
see?
absolutely. Because I want to read this out loud for everybody. In the past few months, I've had connections evolve into a meaningful event leading to other connections. It is like being in the right place at the right time, way more than normal.
Agreed. Faster and faster. Thank goodness.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, and I hear this all the time with my clients. I think what's really important, me as an educator, my goal is to help provide the information for people to learn how to use their bodies, because we don't know.
Yeah.
The technology in your physical body is so advanced. I mean, and I think that talking about UFOs and advanced technology, whatever you're seeing in the sky, for the most part, that's not real. That's not the real interdimensional crafts. Those are not. Those are terrestrial technologies. Real interdimensional crafts are, you know, completely non-physical, based in interfacing with consciousness, interfacing with DNA, interfacing with the organism, using plasma fields, but a whole another level, of technology, which we have not reached yet. Um, so that's something to recognize. Just recognizing that helps us understand how far behind we are. But you can catch up by doing some internal work.
Yeah, so is that like so if we were looking the realm of like witchcraft and magic, we talk a lot about shadow work, sort of ritual healing or ancestral sort of veneration. Is that how we can begin to sort of investigate like those deeper sides of ourselves that we need to really kind of work on that trauma that's there?
100% shadow work is the key, right? I don't tend to work with rituals very much, because I feel like they're very repetitive in following certain paths, and witchcraft is a very interesting art form that is very connected to the earth. It's very connected to earth and the elements, and all of these natural systems. When we talk about shadow work, we're really talking about the psychological, whatever is in the subconscious mind, in the depths of the subconscious. Our physical bodies are really beautiful, that they self-organize this information. The front of the body being the masculine, the back of the body being the feminine, and the feminine always represents this occult, the hidden part, the intuitive part of ourselves. And so we have to repair our connection with all these parts, because the majority of people, they live up here. They're barely up here, and they're barely conscious up here. Can you connect to your back and bring your awareness to your back in 1 second? Can you be fully aware of your full body, 360 degrees in your sphere, right? And most people can't. It takes them at least a minute to get there, right? To really fully be engaged in their body. So I think that part of that connection, part of the shadow work, is to learn to be fully in the body, number one. Number two, work with your emotions. Our emotions are the most powerful bioelectrical creation systems. We're mostly bioelectrical. The more conductive you become, the more you're aligning in harmonic order, the more that you are producing love. And love is not the romantic notion. It's not this physical affection of any kind. Love is a restructuring of your energy system back in harmonic order. And that means actually a neutral state of being, neutral observer. The cultivation of the neutral observer is very difficult, because we're chemically addicted, literally, to being in survival mode. We're programmed to be in survival mode. When we're not in survival mode, we get bored. We're like, where's the drama? Where's the excitement? That's majority of my clients working for years. They always get to that point where they're like, it's too peaceful. Like, what do I do here? But we have to understand, mature enough to understand the value of that. And again, everything in our matrix conditioning that is the inversion of that natural order, is trying to pull us away from that. So so the shadow work is working with the deep belief systems that are created by the experiences of your life. So if you have a pattern of bad relationships and you begin to uncover that, you notice underneath that is shame. Okay, you take that shame and you discover when you were a child, your mother told you to be quiet when you had company, and then you felt like you could never speak again, you can never, express yourself again. And in that memory, a chain reaction of things happened. Biochemically, you're producing certain things. Psychologically and mentally, your brain was not able to find the filing cabinet, that little file that allowed you to implement an action or response to that experience. And trauma doesn't have to be something terribly traumatic. It can be as simple as you not knowing how to respond to something. Okay, imagine how many experiences in your life, micro experiences you've had like that. So when we talk about the shadow, we're talking about all of this unknown about yourself. You don't know it. You've not seen it yet. And so to take time to review that, a lot of people think it's very daunting. But, when I went through this process, 4 months, I meditated sometimes about 9 hours a day. But what I discovered in that is that we're basically coming down to two basic choices. Either we learn to respond from fear or we learn to respond from love. And fear, which is this contractive life force, is something that affects our field tremendously. These memories are kept within the morphogenetic field. Remember that your entire multidimensional body, it's a system of memory, bioelectrical memory. So anytime that an emotion is really strong, you're creating that imprint in the entire field. That doesn't go away. That stays in your body, and it becomes more and more deeper into the subconscious, deeper into the body, into the muscles, into the bones, into illnesses. So really, the key to liberation, the key to freedom, to even begin to access free will, is the shadow work, and that's what I do in my DNA reprogramming sessions. We can do it through hypnotherapy, but I like to do it through DNA reprogramming because you're conscious. You're completely conscious with me, and we're working step by step. So.
It's incredible.
Well, speaking of, you working with people, how can people find you? How do they become a client? How do where can we kind of go, okay, Geraldine is like amazing and I need her in my life more than just tonight.
Sign me up.
I know.
Yeah, so thank you for that. If you would like to work with me, you can connect at my website at geraldineorozco.com, and you can schedule time with me. But I also have a YouTube channel where I talk very in-depth all of these topics. I even have 30-day challenges where I talk about deep emotional shadow work. So if you can't work with me, you can go there and do all the work. I walk you through step by step how to do it, and that's free, right? So that's a really great resource. So yeah, two great ways to connect with me.
Awesome. Yeah, I know we could probably spend the next 3 days.
I was like, I got still 20 questions.
Sorry, yeah.
That's amazing. We'd love to have you on again.
Oh,
I would love to. I would love to. Please, anytime, let me know. Thank you so much for your questions.
Yeah, tonight was amazing. Sisters, before we wrap up tonight, are there some things, some messages you want to leave our family with? Or Haley, you have a baby that's been kind of hanging out for a couple of minutes.
So I swear I wasn't trying to do a product plug, but I just love cuddling with them. But I do make custom beastie babies for all kinds of cryptids and other interdimensional beings out there. This is my little alien. I need to make a lot more of them, especially grays moving forward. But yeah, it's just, I love everyone who's tuned in tonight. We've had such beautiful and thought-provoking conversations, and oh my goodness, we definitely have to have you back on because I have a billion more questions.
I know.
You have such profound understanding, and everything that you say is so coherent, and it's so unique and beautiful. And I just really appreciate you taking the time to spend this with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank
been
you so
wonderful.
much. You guys are amazing. And I love your little dolls. I can't believe you do that. I'll check that out. It's beautiful. Thank
Oh,
you
thank
guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Rachel, any words of wisdom to leave
Ooh.
the Hearth keepers with?
Hi. I mean, there's so much like it just to unpack. It was incredible. Tip of the iceberg kind of situations, but I do believe like she's correct. I think like shadow work is a big deal.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get into. Probably baby steps is a good way to do it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I know next week I won't be here again. I'm going to be driving down to New Orleans for the New Orleans Paracon.
Hanging out with who?
Hanging out with Patty Negri. I'll be doing a couple of her classes. Some other people in the paranormal field. Hopefully, Dr. Bill will get to meet Asia, who I'll get to meet
really are so
other friends that are down there. So it'll be, and investigations. We're going to be going into a hotel I've been dying to get into since the first time I was there in New Orleans. So it's the Andrew Jackson Hotel. We're getting a chance to investigate. Every time I walk by the front of that place, it's like, I got to get in there. Somehow, some way I got to get in there. And they just happen to have that investigation. So I was like, oh, we're going. So
that's awesome. Well, we will miss you.
Too, so of course I will bring back.
Oh yeah. I think we're gonna have to just not have a guest the Thursday after that because we want to hear all about it.
I'll post to our social medias too, so you all can see.
Well, and you guys wish me luck. I'm going to be filming The Vampires of New Jersey this Saturday with Alton Simpson. PBS is going to be there. I'm so excited. It's just exploding. I feel like we really are in such a beautiful, blessed place where we just get the most incredible guests, the most incredible experiences. It's just. And
you guys, our chat, thank you so much to our chat. You guys keep it moving. You're so kind to each other, and we could not thank you enough for that.
So much love.
I know it's real easy for people to get negative and snarky in comments, so I just want to thank all of you guys. I know we all just appreciate that this is just love. This is love and learning and community. So thank you all so much for spending another night with us here at the Hallowed Hearth. If you have not yet liked, subscribe, share, do all of the things on all of the socials. You can find us on all of them. My sisters, thank you again for an amazing night. I'm so blessed to get to spend Thursdays with you. And we'll be back together next week. Bye.